Today is the beginning of the new school year. My sneakers are torn at the sole, the steel insides are shitting on my feet. When I asked my mother if I could buy a new pair, she looked at me like I had just asked for money to buy a diamond necklace. I am Avery Monroe, the eldest daughter in a family of 2 sisters. People often think that the eldest child is loved, expected a lot. But in my family, I am like a shadow. Since childhood, I have been used to taking care of myself, preparing everything from books to meals when my father is busy taking care of Isla, my younger sister. Isla is 4 years younger than me, and as if from the moment she was born, she was determined to be the center of the universe in my parents' eyes. Every time I needed something, a new pair of shoes, a warm coat for the winter, the answer was always, "We don't have money." But strangely, Isla always had a new dress to go to her friend's birthday party, an iPad for home study, and even summer bonfires somewhere read that I had never heard of. I wasn't jealous, at least I thought so. I just didn't understand why the favorite situation in the house had an analytical filter. I was better at studying than Isla, didn't cause trouble, and was always considerate of others. But that was never mentioned at family meals. When I got good grades, there were only a few cold nods. And when Isla learned to recite the alphabet at the age of 5, her parents posted it on Facebook as if she had invented something great. Gradually, I learned to withdraw. I understood that, in this family, I was not the one they were proud of, I was just the one they had to support until I was old enough to fend for myself. I started working part-time when I was 15. Not because I wanted to grow up early, nor to practice life skills, as they say. I went to work simply because I needed the money, to take care of the bare minimum that a teenage girl should have. It was the start of the new school year, and my sneakers were torn at the soles, the steel insides shitting on my feet. When I asked my mom if I could buy a new pair, she looked at me like I'd just asked for money for a diamond necklace. "Avery, you think money grows on trees?" she sighed, tossing me a crumpled $20 bill. "If you want better shoes, go get some." I nodded, saying nothing. I'd learned early on that resistance only made things worse. The next day, I went to a small shop a few blocks away. I'd seen a weekend hiring sign taped to the window. I walked in and asked, "Can I work here?" I thought I would be turned down. I was still under the legal age of employment, but luckily the owner of Lang, a woman named Lucy, agreed to let me try. "Huck will wash dishes, wipe tables, and wrap cakes to take away," she said. "The money isn't much, but it's real money." I nodded, feeling like I had just been given a ticket out of my own invisibility. I gently told my parents about going to work. Every afternoon after school, I rushed to the shop, worked until 8 p.m., and then came home before dinner. It was tiring, but I had never found such clarity. Every tip, every time I poured money into the old wallet, made me feel like I had control over my life, even if just a little. I didn't spend lavishly. I saved up, then bought myself new shoes, a backpack that didn't tear, and after a few months, opened my first savings account. My family had no idea. They figured it out. They were too busy planning Isla's 16th birthday, a live band, a flower backdrop, and an outdoor buffet. When Isla emerged in her fairy tale white dress, I stood in the corner of the garden, wearing my old dress, sipping soda and mumbling, "At least I bought myself shoes to keep me here." No one had sung me happy birthday in years. But that was okay. I didn't need to say it. All I needed was the belief that I could get out of this place, and I started doing it, step by step. I got into college on a full scholarship. Not a small scholarship, a comprehensive package that covered tuition, room and board, books, and basic living expenses. It was the result of 3 years of almost non-stop work, countless scholarship applications, staying up late to do homework, and getting home by 9 p.m. When I got the email notification, I let out a cry in my room. Not out of joy, but out of relief. I knew, from here on, I could walk out of the house that had once treated me as a deep person. Did I just copy undefined? I announced the news at a family dinner. My parents nodded, continuing to eat as if I had just said I had bought new socks. My sister, Isla, even asked calmly, "Does that university have dorms? Or are you staying at home?" I smiled with relief. Of course not. I'm leaving. No one held me back. No one asked what I needed. And so I left, no welcome, no goodbye. Just my grandmother Eloise, who sent me a handwritten letter and a heartache, good enough, and now, worth doing. College was the first place where I felt like I wasn't extra. I had friends, and sleep, and time for slow coffee on Sundays. I majored in finance, because I wanted to learn the numbers my family had used as a cue to reject love. I worked part-time at the library, then did an internship at a prestigious finance company in my 3rd year. And at the end of the year, I got a full-time offer right before graduation. When I started my first job, my family suddenly became, strangely interested. My mother called to ask what I was doing, where I was, and how much I was making. I answered no, feeling that something was off. A week later, my father called to say, "We're trying to get Isla into a private college, and the tuition is so expensive." My mother chimed in, "If you send a little bit back every month, like $1,000, it's not much, right? You live alone, you don't spend much." I didn't answer right away. I thought about the times I asked for money to buy books and was refused, the birthday cakes without a flag, and the nights I came home and no one asked why. But then, I nodded. I don't know why, maybe because I was still trying to prove that I was reasonable. And so, every month, I sent exactly $1,000 home, not a single day. They didn't need it. But because I thought, maybe, family was something you could buy, if you paid the price. I started transferring money on the 5th of every month, without delay, without complaining. $1,000 regularly, without conditions, without questions. Every time I transferred money, I told myself, it's just money. I'm doing well. I'm doing the right thing. My parents were happy and wrote a few short thank you messages. My sister hardly ever said anything. But I didn't expect the feeling. I just thought, if I did enough, hopefully one day they would see me. But the requests didn't stop there. After 3 months, my mother called. Her voice was artificially gentle. "Isla's car is broken. It's $400 to fix. Can you send more this week?" Before I could respond, she added, "Of course I don't mind. Your salary is good anyway." I answered, nodding. Then another time, the water bill skyrocketed, the washing machine needed to be replaced, Isla needed a laptop for school. All were urgent. All needed help. I began to see myself not as a girl, but as a wallet with legs. I worked more and more, worked overtime, took on more projects in the hope of making up for the money that kept shaking every month. I never saw Isla calling to say thank you. But I saw her posting pictures of her going to the spa, carrying designer bags, taking pictures at discount cafes, while I ate instant noodles to save money on rent. Something inside me began to crack, a small but audible crack. It all eroded one dark May. I ran into Ms. Jenkins, a former teacher, now on the board of the university where Isla studied. She smiled, asked how I was, congratulated me and said, "Oh, Isla is doing great. She got a full scholarship for the honors program, that's rare." I stood still. She continued, "The school covers all the tuition, room and board, books. She's so lucky." I don't remember what I said. I just know that when I left that conversation, I was shaking as I opened all the messages from my parents, the lies about tuition, about hardship, about the loan account I thought I was helping with. The truth was, Isla thought she needed the money. She got it all. So where did the money I sent, strong for almost a year, go? The answer was obvious. To ease the pain, it was to feed the red-hot stuff, the privileges of a child who had never been denied. Part of me wanted to scream. The empty space was reassigned. Now I had to pay to be treated like an outsider in my own family. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in my life, I started planning to stop. All things, in start, that I didn't say anything to my parents after I found out the truth. No text, no call, no money transfer. I needed time to calm down and sort things out, in my head, in my heart, and in my life. I transferred all my money to my personal savings account and closed my credit card. The bank they used to borrow money. Now there was no borrowing anymore. That was the end. A week later, I received an invitation from my grandmother Eloise's organization. Her 75th birthday would be held at her home, a big party with all her family and close friends. I knew my parents and Isla would be there. But I decided to go anyway. This was her occasion, the only person who had never benefited me. I couldn't just go for the other three. I arrived early, wearing the sapphire dress she had once said suited your eyes. I brought a gift box. Inside was warm hand-painted tea from a local artist, spirited and classic, just the way she loved it. She hugged me tightly when she saw me, her smile as gentle as ever. "My daughter is here," she whispered, as if she had been expecting me. The party was warm and cozy, with people chatting, exchanging gifts and congratulations. Until my mother stood up, raised her glass of wine, and laughed as if she were giving a speech at a recognition ceremony. "We wish you a wonderful birthday, Mom," she said. "You have always been the guiding light of this family." I laughed, but before I could respond, she turned to me. "And by the way, my daughter Avery has come back to the family, refusing to help when her sister only needed a small graduation gift." Frozen.me There was no equipment in the room's hardware. All eyes were on me. I stood slowly, my hands shaking but my voice clear. "If you want to know the truth, this is her. I have been sending home $1,000 a month for the past year, because Mom and Dad said Isla didn't have a scholarship, she needed tuition." I turned to my Uncle George, who was on the school board. "Uncle George, is Isla on a full scholarship?" He nodded, frowning. I confirmed. "Both my studies at home are covered." The room was silent. My mother blushed, my father looked down. Isla was still studying her plate of food. "That money wasn't hard," I continued. "It was for handbags, spas, vacations. I didn't help my sister, I cheated. Eloise stood up, small but imposing. Linda. Robert. Eslaw. Get out of my house. Her voice was soft. I won't tolerate lies at my main party. And so, in one evening, my whole life was freed. After today's birthday party, I had no more contact with my parents or Eslaw. The missed calls and messages, mixed with pleading, were quickly sent straight to my block list. I didn't feel relaxed right away, but every morning when I woke up, I felt a little lighter. Perhaps it was the feeling of being able to do things for myself, no longer burdened with the so-called family obligations that had been weighing me down for so long. I moved in near my grandmother Eloise. She told me I didn't need rent, but I paid a portion of it, not out of obligation, but because I wanted to do what I was, a con artist for the only person who had ever treated me like a con artist. We had afternoon baths on the porch, talking about flowers, about good books, about the future, a future that wasn't a mix of love and convenience. My work was going well. I started thinking about graduate school, about vacations I'd never allowed myself to imagine before. I started dating again, slowly, eagerly, and without feeling like I had to prove anything to anyone. I used to think that to be loved, I had to work hard. But now I understand, true love doesn't need to be proven, and certainly shouldn't have conditions, and there are some people who are really good, sometimes, just need to stand behind.